I expect Reuben Owens to lead the Aggies in rushing, but it could be pretty close.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. Weekend is almost here. I know everybody's excited. I am too. We're going to talk about how the Aggies won't be playing any baseball this weekend. And am I concerned? Am I not concerned? That'll be our segment 3 conversation. But first, I want to talk a little bit about this running back room. I had an episode 3 weeks ago, a month ago probably, where I predicted Reuben Owens to lead the Aggies in rushing. I am standing by that prediction. I had some folks say, well, Andrew, I think it's going to be closer than you expect it to be. I think there's going to be some I think you're going to see a lot of different running backs, and you're going to see Le'Veon Moss and people. I would say a handful of people predicted Le'Veon Moss to lead the Aggies in rushing. Now, want to be brutally honest with y'all. If that happened, I wouldn't be surprised. Not one bit would I be surprised if Le'Veon Moss ended up leading the Aggies in rushing. I still believe that it's going to be Reuben Owens. I've heard this staff say some great things about him. He seems to be, there's a legit, we see this happen all the time, the leap from freshman to sophomore when it comes to running back. Running back, it's a position I talk about often where you can get on the field as a freshman. If you have those intangibles, that shiftiness, that ability to, read your blockers and find the holes. If you can do that, you can do that as a freshman, as long as you're in the athletic shape you need to be to do it. And I think that Reuben Owens was last year. And now I look at this and I think that Reuben Owens is ready to take that step. But here's a problem, and it's a good problem. I think Texas A&M has a stable of really good running backs. I think this is a deep room full of guys that can play the game. Last year we saw Reuben Owens, we saw Le'Veon Moss, and we saw Amari Daniels, and all three of them had some incredible moments. All three of them had some much where you weren't super stoked, but all three of those guys flashed signs that they can be elite running backs and lead this offense. Now, here's what's going to be interesting to me with having this many options is, what does Coach Klein do? So let's look at his offense last year. His running back Giddens had 223 carries for 1,226 yards, 10 touchdowns. So he had one running back really separate himself as the guy. Then he had his RB2, Ward, had 124 carries for 643 yards and 5 touchdowns. Both of these guys had really solid yards per carry. Giddens was 5.5. Ward was 5.2. These dudes were doing a great job moving the football. But that's interesting to me. So your next running back only had 13 carries. Then you had another running back with 3, another running back with 4. So it was pretty much you had 2 guys. Is that the case at Texas A&M? That is the question. Because if that is, I believe that it's going to end up being Reuben Owens and Le'Veon Moss, with Reuben Owens taking the Giddens role we saw last year at K-State, and Le'Veon Moss taking the Ward role. But I'll be honest with you, I think while I am giving Reuben Owens an edge right now, it's like 52 to 48 percentage-wise. I mean, this is not a wide margin. I'm not sitting here. I want to continue to reiterate. I think Le'Veon Moss is a really, really good running back. I do. I think Amari Daniels is a really good running back. I think EJ Smith is a good running back. I'm just telling you, I believe that it's going to be really hard to keep all these players off the field. If you could run a full running back set, I think you'd find a way to do it. I mean, that's just how good this room is. And once again, I will reiterate this time and time again, it is not a bad problem to have. Having too many really good running backs, I don't think Coach Elko's like, darn it, man, I got all these good running backs. What am I going to do? I think he's like, man, I got all these good running backs. What am I going to do? And I think, Coach Klein's saying the same thing to himself. And, I think that what can help this room is everybody having a role. Whether it's this guy's your pass catcher, this guy's your change of pace, this guy's your third down back, this guy's your bruiser, this guy's your speed guy. Everybody needs to have a role. You need to take every detail that goes into playing the running back position, every skill set, and you need to give it was like in The Office when they put the beans next to Michael Scott and Jim Halpert put the beans next to people. And he was like, okay, well, and they were, you know what I mean? A big Office guy. I can't believe I've never made an Office reference on this show. I think it was the first time. But so, it's kind of like give each running back, what are they good at? Are they good at, are they a speed guy? Are they good at catching the ball out of the backfield? EJ Smith, what we talked about a lot. He caught the ball out of the backfield a ton last year at Stanford. And how are you going to use each running back to their skill set? And I think that's a good way I think it's a solid way to operate a backfield, use players to their skill set. Now, once again, and I'm going to continue to harp on how talented this room is. I believe that when it comes to pass catching, when it comes to, I believe that all four of these running backs are good at everything when it comes to being a running back. I don't think, you don't got a guy that's like, okay, well, he's your bruiser and that's it. You don't got a guy that's like, well, he's your speed guy and that's it. You don't got a guy that's like, he's your pass catcher and that's it. I believe all of these running backs can do everything it takes to be a solid running back in the SEC and in college football. So, that's the point I wanted to reiterate. While I believe Reuben Owens does take over as the RB1, and once again, I don't want to hear any, Andrew, you were wrong. It was Le'Veon Moss. I'm not going to be shocked. I'm just making a take here. I think that Reuben Owens is going to take over a little bit, but I think that Le'Veon Moss is still going to have an absolutely massive, massive role for this team. I feel pretty confident saying that. I don't have any concerns there. So, I'm pretty excited to see how this room works itself out because once again, I think Coach Klein is kind of looking at this room right now and he's saying to himself, man, I've got a good problem. I've got a lot of good running backs. And I don't think, obviously you've got some good solid running back rooms. Ohio State's got a good running back room. Auburn's got a good running back room. But for the most part, it's like Texas A&M has a really solid room, a really good running back room. And it's a good problem to have. So I think Coach Klein wakes up smiling every morning saying to himself, man, I have a lot of good running backs. I have a good problem. And it's who am I going to have on the field? Because I have so many talented guys that it makes sense to have out on the field. So like I said, the difference from Giddens to Ward that we discussed from RB1 to RB2 last year at Kansas State, I don't think you're going to see that wide of a margin. I mean, almost a 600-yard gap pretty much. I don't think you're going to see that much of a margin between whoever's the RB1 and the RB2, whether it's Reuben Owens, whether it's Le'Veon Moss. I don't think you're going to see a margin like that. I really don't. I think that you're going to see these two guys have a pretty, I think that they're going to be quite well. They're all going to have their role is kind of what I'm getting here. I think everybody's going to have their role. I think that everybody is going to fill it nicely, and I think it's going to be a good thing for this football team and for this offense. So I'm excited to see how Coach Klein uses these guys. I don't think he's going to have any issue figuring out how to give out carries to this room. So I'm really excited to see what Coach Klein does with his running back room is going to be special. We talked about the running backs. Let's talk a little bit about the pass catchers. Is a tight end going to lead the Aggies in receiving yards? What should we expect from the pass catchers and this offense as a whole? We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. There's a lot going on right now. Once again, the NBA playoffs. I mean, is Luka and Kyrie going to get the job done? I'm starting to think so. After that game 1 victory, I think they're going to do it. I love Luka. He's playing banged up. He's playing through injuries. I just love it. I love watching him play. I love the way Kyrie played in game 1. I think the Mavs are going to go to the finals. And if you agree, go put your money where your mouth is over on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You got to go check them out. So the pass catchers for the Aggies. This is going to be interesting to me. I'm going to be really honest with you. This is going to be very, very interesting to me because I think you're going to see Texas A&M have a bunch of solid. I think elite's a strong word. I think you're going to see Texas A&M have a bunch of players that need to get the football. I do. And we know it is a point that I continue to harp on. I continue to reiterate. And that is how talented the tight end room is, how talented the receiver room is. I think that, are they among top 10 rooms in college football? No, they're not there. But I think you have really solid rooms here. And how the yards and targets and receptions are spread out is another part of this offense that's going to be very, very interesting. I look at, looking back at Coach Klein's offense last season at Kansas State, tight end Sanat. I didn't end up seeing where he got drafted. Once we get to fantasy football season, I will know that because he's going to be a really solid rookie tight end. But he did not lead the team in receptions, but he did lead the team in receiving yards. He had 49 receptions for 676 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also led the team in receiving touchdowns. Brooks was their leading receiver when it came to receptions. He had 53 catches for 589 yards and 5 touchdowns. Then you had another receiver, Brown, 27 receptions, 437 yards, 3 touchdowns. Then your running back, Giddens, 323 yards, 29 receptions, three touchdowns through the air. Yeah, I think you're going to see some different players catch passes. I think you're going to see, once again, so Giddens, he had about 1,300 yards on the ground and or was it about 1,200 yards on the ground and 300 yards to the air and a couple touchdowns to the air. So the running back is going to be involved in the pass catching game, especially knowing that Texas A&M's running back have that skill set. They're good at that. You're going to see that. You're going to see that happen this year. Then you had a receiver, 19 catches, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns. 24 catches, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. 14 catches, 184 yards, 1 touchdown. You're really going to see a lot of guys get involved in this pass catching game. And that is why I believe, okay, yeah, we feel good about Donovan Green. We feel good about Moose. We feel good about Janae Walker. We feel good about Le'Veon Moss in the pass catching game. We feel good about Reuben Owens in the pass catching game. We feel good about Noah Thomas. We feel good about all those guys. But then players like Cyrus Allen, Micah Tease, Ben Trey. Why am I blanking on Watson's name? Is it Trey Watson? Yeah, Trey Watson. The tight end transfer. But that's why that's kind of what I'm getting at here is you're going to see a lot of different playmakers get involved in this passing game. I think Coach Klein's numbers from last year prove that. And it's funny, while he had a running back who kind of took over as the guy in the backfield, in the pass catching game, there was a lot of different guys involved. You didn't have that 800, 900, 1,000-yard receiver. You had a lot of guys, 600, 500, 400, 400, 200, 300, like a lot of guys like that. And I think that's going to be a trend. I think you're going to see a lot of guys get involved. And to me, that is why losing Jabri Barber for whatever, if it ends up being the season, if it ends up not being the season, whatever it ends up being, that is why losing Jabri Barber is so frustrating, because I think a lot of different guys were going to mix in and catch passes and do that kind of stuff for the Aggies this year. So losing him hurts, because I don't think it's just going to be Thomas, Moose, and Jade Walker. I think it's going to be a lot of other guys. Some of the freshmen get mixed in. Does Terry Bussey have any snaps at receiver? You're going to see a lot of different things happen with this offense. You're going to see a lot of different things happen with different pass catchers. So I'm really excited to see how the pass catchers really, what it looks like this season. Like in the running back room, I think I've got a pretty good idea of how I think it's going to go, which I obviously just got done explaining. When it comes to the pass catching, which of course includes tight ends, receivers, and running backs, I'm not just talking about receivers here. I think there's a lot of different ways this can go, and all of them are very, very interesting. So, I think Coach Klein does a really good job of keeping opposing defenses on their toes, and I think he's going to continue to do that during his time at Texas A&M. And I think having so many different weapons at so many different positions, even your quarterback using his legs, I think that is going to make his offense even better than we anticipate. I feel really good about the Coach Klein offense. I think, I've been bought into this from day one. I think everybody around Texas A&M has been bought into this since day one. But I think that folks in the national media, other college football personalities are really starting to go, man, Colin Klein's going to be a star for Texas A&M when it comes to him leading this offense to something special. I think Texas A&M's offense is going to be really, really good this year. And I think, while, yes, your personnel is great, and that's going to be a massive part of it, I think it's also going to be in part thanks to the fact that you have a really dominant play caller. I think you've got the weapons. I think you've got the quarterback. I think you've got the play caller. And in football, in offense, you have to have all three of those things. You can't just have a good play caller and bad players. You can't have great players and a play caller. That was kind of last year. I think the last year, whatever went on between Petrino and Bobby P and Jimbo was not working. I think that they were both great at their time. They did not do well together last year. I don't think that's going to be the case. There's no one stepping on the toes of Colin Klein. It's his offense. It's his baby. And I think he's going to run something very, very special as the OC of the Texas A&M Aggies. The Aggies lose to Tennessee in the SEC tournament, and their time in Hoover was not very long. Am I concerned? Where is my head at? Selection show's coming up. 31st is when the region starts. There's a lot to discuss. We'll talk about this baseball team and my levels of concern coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. It's Friday, and I'm excited. But I'm also excited because I get to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. I love the Game Time app, as y'all know. It is the best place to get tickets. I continue to tell you, I got tickets for my dad and I. It's his birthday coming up here relatively soon, and got him tickets to a concert. Where did I get them? Game Time. It's the only place I'm ever going to get tickets to anything. Going to an MLB game with my buddies on Sunday. Where do they get my tickets? Game Time. Where do they get their tickets? Game Time. Because I told them if they don't, I'm going to be very, very upset. And there's no other place you should be buying tickets. I love how easy the app is to use. I love the deals you get last minute. I love everything about the Game Time app. It is truly the perfect place to get tickets. I love how in the app you can see what your seat looks like, whether it's comedy, a concert, a baseball game, any sporting event. Game Time is the best place to go get your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, baseball team loses in Hoover. SEC tournament is over for the Aggies after 2 losses, one to Mississippi State, one to the Tennessee Volunteers. You lose 7-4. I'll run through, the game, who hit the ball well, what happened on the mound. We'll run through all that, and then we'll talk about concernment level going forward. So Grahovac goes 2 for 5. He had a bomb, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. Laviolette goes 2 for 5 with a run. Jackson Appel goes 2 for 4, scores a run, knocks home an RBI. Ted Burton had an RBI and also drew a walk, was 2 for 3 on the day. So that was kind of, you still had some folks hitting the ball well at the dish. And your staff gave up 8 free bases. It was 7 walks and a hit by pitch. That's way too many. This staff has done a very good job of limiting the walks, limiting the hit by pitches this year to where, a normal game, it's 3 or 4, and we can live with that. 8, you're creating a lot of traffic for yourself. When you're a pitcher, anyone that's pitched, you don't want traffic. You don't want to come out of the windup. You don't want to go into the stretch. You do not want folks on base when you're trying to pitch. It just makes things complicated. Nobody likes pitching with a lot of people on base. And that is what happens when you give up free bases. 8 free bases is pretty much, if you do the math, it's a base runner an inning. You don't want that. That's what I'm getting at here. And, that is my concern. You cannot get the yips when it comes to putting people on base when you get to the NCAA tournament. Once again, the Aggies have pretty much, I don't think this mattered when it comes to, they're going to be a top 8 seed. A trip to Omaha, I believe, is going to run through College Station, run through Texas A&M. So, am I concerned? Those of you that have played any sport at a high level or any level, when you move in to the postseason, not on a high, it's a little bit concerning. I was hoping they would win one game in Hoover, just one game, just because it was a confidence thing. They knew they weren't there, to do a ton. They weren't there. I think Sloss was trying to be careful with pitching. If you go deep into this thing, you're going to have some pitchers on 5-day rest that you really don't for when the regional starts. And the regional starting on the 31st. So I kind of think that's why this is hard, because you'd love to win the SEC tournament, but at the same time, you don't want to lose any pitching. You don't want to have guys on short rest, but then at the same time, you don't want to go 0-2 and lose confidence. It's a tough battle as a coach to decide what you want. So yeah, I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned that this team did not play well in the SEC tournament, because confidence is a real thing, especially in baseball. You got to be confident at the dish, on the mound. If you're not confident, it's hard to play this game. And so are they struggling confidence-wise heading into the NCAA tournament? That is my concern. If there's no confidence issues, if this team's saying, hey, we're fine, we're going to be all right, we're going to power through, no reason to worry about us, then I'm not worried about it. If this team is really, if this team is not in a good spot, if this team is really, mentally not doing okay after this in the tournament, then I'm concerned. Hopefully you get your draw, you play your 4 seed, and you blow them out and get that confidence you need. You're playing at home. You're going to have a loud crowd. I think this team's going to be okay. I still believe the Aggies can and will make it to Omaha, but I most definitely do have some concerns after this. The 2 and done in the SEC tournament. So, we'll have a selection show. We'll break all that down. We'll break down the draw. We'll run through all that when we get that stuff here in the coming days. But let me know in the YouTube comments. Are you concerned about this baseball team heading into the NCAA tournament? New season starts. The Aggies got to be ready to rock and roll. That's going to do it for this week here at Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really do appreciate it. Hope everybody has an outstanding weekend, and we will see you on Monday.